Hey everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for another soap making video. Today I am showing you how I have made the second of the gemstone soaps for July, and that is Amethyst. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about it. So let's go and see how I make it. Alright, so let's get started with this soap. It's going to take me a couple of days to make it because I actually want to make some soap chunks to go inside of this soap. So I have got my oils here, and I've worked out how much I need by I use 1,700 grams worth of oil in my mold, and I've decided I want to make 700 grams of that into soap chunks. So that is what I've got in here, and in my other bucket, which you will see later, I've got the rest of that 1,000 grams there. I've also split off what sodium hydroxide distilled water solution I need to saponify this amount of oils. So I'm going to pour this in here, I'm going to mix it up, and then by the time I've mixed that up, that plane should be gone and we can make some colours. Okay, so that plane is gone. Let's get the stick blender out, and I'm going to just pop that into that jug for now. And what we are going to now do is split out for a total of 3 different micas. And in this one, I have some Mad Minion. And I want them fairly even, but it's not that important to get them that even. This one in here is Eminence, so we're going to pour a bit off in there. And then I have a third purple here, which this one is Grape. And I just wanted 3 different tones of purple. And it will all start to make sense as we start building this soap. So let me get this evenly split out. Alright, so they are now all split out, and what I'm going to do is add my fragrance into these. It is a pretty good fragrance. This is French Lavender from Aroma, and I do use this in my French Lavender soap that I do, and it's very, very popular. Alright, I'm going to use the stick blender to get this mixed in, just to make sure that mica is well incorporated there. So don't feel that there's much difference between these 2 purples here. So in fact, there's probably not enough difference between them all. So what I'm going to do is add a bit of activated charcoal into that one. And then into this one here, I'm just going to add a very, very small amount of titanium dioxide. Alright, that is much better in there now. I'm not going to do much with this lighter purple, so I am just going to go and grab the mould, and all I'm going to do is use this square mould here, and I'm going to fill each of these squares up. Nothing else more fancy than that. Alright, so in this medium purple, just giving that a bit of a stir, get my thing out of the way, I have got some Blizzard mica, and I'm just going to drop that in there, and I'm going to now pour into here, just do a bit at a time so we can make sure we've got that white speckled through. I'll worry about scraping that in a minute because this is starting to set up. So we'll get this one stirred. It is quite cool today, and that never helps with how quick a fragrance oil traces. I know when I do this fragrance in the summer, it stays really, really liquid for me. In my dark purple, I have got some of the Extravagance Gold mica. Just give that a stir. And again, I'm just going to drop into there. I'll actually give that one a stir with the spatula just to incorporate it in there a bit more because it has thickened. And again, I'm just going to divide that up between these ones. I'm going to get these jugs scraped out, and then I'm going to leave these sit overnight, and then we'll come back and we will start chopping these up into the little bits, and hopefully the noise out in the street will be gone tomorrow. Okay, so our soap has been setting up overnight. I am just going to pop all of these little soap squares out. It is still a little bit soft, but I'm not too worried. We might just get a few little squished bits while we're cutting, but I still think this is going to work really, really well. So let me finish getting these ones out. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I've got my little chopping board, I have got a knife, I also have a jug here. Those bits are just some bits that I've pulled out of the mould because I don't want any of that soap to go to waste. And now all I'm going to do is just kind of really roughly chop this into chunks, let's say. I am loving how this dark purple has come up. That is the inside. You can see those veins of gold in there, so that is going to look very much like pieces of amethyst. Now while I am cutting this up, I'll give you a little bit of information about the amethyst. Alright, so while I'm chopping this up, let's have a look at some of the modern day ideals behind the amethyst stone. So it is associated with the third eye or crown of the chakra, and it is the birthstone for all of you lucky February babies. You get this gorgeous purple stone to represent you. It is linked to Virgo, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces, and some sites say that it is also linked to Sagittarius. Some say it is, some say it isn't. I think they might be saying it is linked to Sagittarius because it is also associated with the planet of Jupiter, which is very often associated with Sagittarius, but it is got the air and water elements, so there's no fire from off that Jupiter or Sagittarius. See, I might not be into all of this stuff, but I do know how to actually know a little bit about it as well. Now, the amethyst is also known as the stone of calm. So it is used by people with the belief that it will relieve stress and strain, and it will help to soothe irritabilities, headache and tension. Now I'm not saying that you need to be going to do that sort of, or using this stone to relieve those. You need to make that fair judgment on whether you actually really do need medical help there. I just need to say that so I don't get into trouble. We are all entitled to our own belief systems here. It is also said that it encourages inner peace and healing, and it increases nobility and spiritual awareness. Now that doesn't mean to say that you're going to become a king or queen if you're suddenly wearing amethyst all the time. What it's saying by nobility is that you're going to be honest and charitable. What it is lesser known for, and I will get into that little myth a bit later on, is that it is a stone which is known, or it has been used in history to prevent drunkenness and overindulgence, and the story that goes with that is actually quite interesting. But as I said, we will discuss that just a little bit later. Now, because this is all about calm, relief of stress and that sort of thing, that is why I decided to go with lavender as the fragrance oil for this one. I'm going to finish getting these chopped up into chunks, and then we're going to come back and we will do the top of this soap. And while we do that, we'll have a look at the appearance of the stone, as well as where it comes from and some of the myths and history of the amethyst. Alright, so I've finished cutting up all those soapy bits, and it's now time to start getting the actual soap all put together. So I have got the rest of my oils in here. I'm going to pour that lye solution in, and I'm going to start by splitting off a little bit for a base colour. Okay, that is all I'm actually going to mix it for now. It was literally a couple of blitzes with the mixer there because I want to have enough working time for my layers. In here I have actually mixed in some eminence, some silver lake and some black pearl mica. I wanted that sort of pearly dark look that you get on the outside of geodes, and that will be the first layer of this soap. So let's get that mixed in. We'll put in a little bit of this fragrance oil as well. Alright, so I just had a little bit of a play in there. I don't want my level or my layer to be completely level this time, so I've just made, you know, a little bit uneven there. What I'm going to do to this big pot, first of all, is spray my titanium dioxide all over my bench, and then put some into here. That should do. Let's get that one mixed in, and we're going to pour just a little bit on top of that grey. Amethyst, it ranges in colour from being a light purple to a very dark purple, and the difference in colour will actually determine its quality, and the darker it is, the actual better that the amethyst is. The most expensive type of amethyst that you can get is the Siberian amethyst, and it is a intensely dark coloured purple stone. The lighter it is, the less valuable it actually is. Now, what you do need to consider with amethyst is, even though it is dark, it could have once upon a time been a very dark colour. It is very sensitive to sunlight, so if you do have amethyst, be aware of where you are actually placing it. I know a lot of people like to place it in areas where there is a lot of sunlight, but you are going to run the risk of fading the colour of that amethyst if you actually do so. They are a part of the quartz family, and as such they will form as crystals, rocks, clusters, and as we are doing now, in geodes, depending on the conditions of where they were actually found. Now, into this bucket here, I am going to add in just a touch of purple, because I want this to be a very pale purple colour. So that should be probably a little bit too much. We'll just wait and see what happens. So the geodes actually form in volcanic areas. So when you get the rocks that come out of the volcanoes or the lava, they form into these hollow rocks because of the way that the gases are on the inside of the rock. And then all the minerals and things that are actually within that rock, as long as it's the right minerals and the right temperature within that sort of molten rock, as it hollows out, the amethyst crystals or geodes will actually form, and this is known as an igneous rock, so it's been formed in that heat there. They do also come as a metamorphic rock, and a metamorphic one, being a morphing stone, means that it undergoes a change. So sometimes it will be something else. It will undergo something such as heat or pressure, and it will change into a new mineral, and that is another way in which the amethyst can actually form. So I hope you actually do enjoy that sort of more scientific side. I know a lot of people are just more interested in that sort of spiritual side of the rocks, but me personally, I do like the sort of origins, where it's found. I always thought I would end up doing something to do with archaeology or digging for stones, lapidary and all that sort of stuff. So and that was as a very young child. I used to be fascinated with that sort of thing. So things really did change for me in life. But after going into this shop that we went into with all these stones, it kind of reignited that passion that I had for learning about these stones and gemstones, things like that. What I'm going to do is just slide this over. Now these are still quite tacky, but I'm going to pour the whole lot in here. So I've got that mixed in as best as I can. Let's get it poured onto the soap here. Oh gosh, it's heavy. Considering there is no more soap in there than what I would normally actually pour, that is extremely heavy. And I'm just going to make an absolute mess if I continue to do it that way. So we might actually turn it on its side and go this way. I just don't want that soap to fall out heavily and go through our layer of that geode. Now, if you're still not sure what the geode is that I refer to, the geodes, you generally see them, they're like this massive rock. They're usually cut when you do see them. Because that's how you actually have to really present a geode to get that look from them. They tend to be a really big rock that has been cut, and on the inside you find either, there doesn't have to be amethyst. Amethyst is the most common one that you do see, but there are other stones that form in geodes as well. They generally have that really dark outer shell, which is the volcanic rock that they form in, and then they have a white layer, and then they have all the little crystals and gemstones as well. Let me get this in here. This is proving to be a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be, but we'll make it work. Because I've got all of those pieces of soap in there, I'm not going to try and use a spoon on there because I think it's just going to ruin it too much. But instead, I am going to put some of the biodegradable holographic glitter on the top. And that is because I always associate amethyst in those big geodes catching the light and really glittering away. So I think that's really going to add to the soap here. Alright, so this has been sitting here. It's nice and firm, so we should be able to put our amethyst on without them sinking down. And these are our gemstones here. Some of these have got very nice dark purple tones, others are a little bit paler, but I actually picked them out because of the gorgeous patterns that they had running through them. Now if I grab some of these, I don't know if you can actually see them on the camera, the reason I put some of those gold drop swirls through those pieces was because some of these have just flecks of gold and silver sort of highlights through them, and that's what I try to capture in those chunks. Now I don't know how many of you just actually sat there watching me do that on that last part and think, did she actually put the fragrance in that light purple? No, I didn't. I was just having a bit of a tidy up and say, oh no, and I picked up the fragrance. So I've actually ended up weighing it out. I use the full amount of fragrance oil that I'm allowed to use, which is 5%. I weighed how much was actually sitting left in that jar, and it's brought it down that I've used about 3.8% fragrance in this soap, which is actually still pretty strong. I know a lot of people only soap at about 2 and 3%, so I'm not too bothered that I have forgotten it. Those chunks have got that smell through, so the whole bar is actually going to smell. But let's get these on to our soap here and have a think about what I can tell you about the amethyst, apart from that it seems to be a very popular stone with people. It has actually been used in many ancient cultures, including the Greek, Roman and Egyptian, plus it's also found in Chinese philosophy, and it has even been found in some of the folklore tales of Mexico and other South American countries. So it is a stone that is known throughout the world and has been used throughout the world, and is generally known as the gemstone of fire because how it actually needs that intense heat to actually form. And did you know that amethyst was actually once worth more than diamonds? And as I said, that Siberian amethyst is the most expensive amethyst out there. I still think diamonds these days probably actually beat it, but once upon a time, amethyst, girls, was what you would ask for, not a diamond. Now, many religions actually connect this stone to the divine, and that is including Hebrew, where the high priest wears it as the 9th stone in their breastplate. The Catholic priests, they have worn a ring made with amethyst, and it is said to actually protect them from over-indulgence. And that comes from a myth that is out there. It's in both Greek and the Roman myth. I'm going to go through the Greek one. It's pretty much the same, it's just the gods that actually differ between Greek and Roman. So in the Greek version, the god of wine, who is Dionysus, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Roman one is Bacchus. He was angry with amethyst, who was a maiden who was refusing his advances. So Dionysus got himself very, very drunk and sent tigers to attack Amethyst. And as the tigers were about to actually attack, another god, which I can't remember the name of right now, turned her into clear quartz. And Dionysus, or Bacchus, depending upon which version you are looking at, was so taken aback by the beauty of this clear quartz that they cried, and their tears were of wine because they'd been drinking so much wine. And as their teardrops touched that clear crystal, it dyed that crystal into the purple that we have in amethyst today. And that is why many of the wine goblets throughout history actually have amethyst embedded into them. And that is, they put them in as part of those ancient cultures as a way of stopping drunkenness. So these Greek and Roman myths actually do play a role in so many other cultures in terms of what we take on. So the Catholic priests wear them as a way to protect them from overindulgence, which is what Dionysus did. He overindulged in wine, and that was what it resulted in. Anyhow, I'm going to bring you down for a closer look. Alright, so here is our amethyst soap. It is looking absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to get this one cut open and see if the inside even slightly resembles inside a geode. So we'll be back in just a moment, or in my case 24 hours, to cut this one open. Alright, so let's get cut into our amethyst soap. It is smelling really good, even though I did miss a little bit of that fragrance oil out of there. It is still quite strong coming through the soap. Now there is also another little soapy confession with this one. When I went to unmold this one and do the photographs, I noticed that 4 of the amethysts were actually quite loose on the top here. And what I've realized is that as I've actually pushed them into the soap, I've pushed them into an area where there was some of the soapy chunks underneath them, so there hasn't been enough soap to actually hold them in place. So what I've done is I've just got a little bit of clear melt and pour. Oh dear, a little bit of clear melt and pour, and I have stuck them back on to the top there. I think as I've hit some of those chunks, they're a little bit harder than the rest because they were a day older, but we are almost through. Oh, and let's take a look. Alright, so let's take a look from this end. This is certainly, it's a mix between being sticky and soft. So we've got a few drag lines in there, but I can actually shave that off. I'm really pleased with how that's come up with that sort of almost geode look on the inside there. Loving the colour that I've managed to get across the bottom there, that really deep dark purple, and then that little layer of white that you always get on the outside of the geodes. This white is still actually quite, or the pale purple is still actually quite sticky, but the rest of it's really quite firm down the bottom, and that's possibly because I actually forgot to put that fragrance in that light purple, and it can make a huge difference in your soap batter whether or not you've got that fragrance oil in or not. So that's made a big change to how this soap is behaving. But once this has actually become less sticky on the inside here, I will give it a little bit of a plane to tidy it up. But overall, I'm really happy with how it's come out with that sort of geode effect on the inside there, and each of those once again has its own little piece of amethyst on the top. So these will be heading off to the cure rack for 4 weeks, and when they are ready I will post them up onto the Instagram page, and then they'll be available online. And as well as online, I do also have some crystal pouches available which you can purchase to go with these gemstones. Now I've just noticed on that one you can actually see the gold in that piece of purple down there, and you can see a little bit of that white that we did in the drop swirl while making these chunks as well. So I am actually pretty happy with these. That they are going to need just a little bit of time for bits of these to dry out properly. It is quite sticky still. So I might actually leave the other half of this one to cut till later. You can really see that gold mica line through that purple one on there. That really matches in with the stone that's on the top of this one. It has got a little gold streak through it as well. So I hope you have enjoyed watching how I made my amethyst soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And until the next video, I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye.